This is day 2 of our stay at the now-defunct Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser resort. We started the day bright and early with breakfast at the Crown of Corellia dining room, where all meals were served. In case you missed our day 1 video, this was filmed in March 2022 in landscape format during the first month of operations. Not only was the food on theme, but the quality was the best I'd had at any theme park and rivaled high-end luxury hotels. For your only full day at the resort, you have to take an excursion to the Black Spire Outpost, also known as Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, to complete your assigned missions and ride the Star Wars attractions. You enter the theme park via a dedicated entrance, which was fantastic for immersion. The bulk of your missions were completed using the dedicated app. You had to do some directional scanning, take photos, or scan QR codes scattered throughout Galaxy's Edge, as well as complete various minigames to secure digital collectibles and progress the story. One of the biggest downsides of the experience was the limited time. You only had one full day at the resort, which was split with the theme park. This meant you had to prioritize completing your missions to get back to the resort, which you're only at for 2 nights. This could likely be attributed to the lack of self-guided options to complete missions at the resort itself, but at any rate, it was very fun to go through the theme park completing missions with a scanner, like I'm in the Star Wars universe with a datapad. On a side note, if you're into Star Wars novels, I absolutely recommend the Modern Thrawn trilogy, as some stories do take place on Batuu. Once your excursion was complete, it was time to head back to the resort for lunch and additional activities. One of the highlights was an activity on the bridge where you and others were assigned a workstation and had to complete various minigames to progress the story. Various story events also took place during a large reception in the atrium, where guests would interact with actors while all the storylines progressed prior to converging at the end of the evening during the second seating of dinner. I recall when dessert was served, a large alarm went off indicating all guests needed to head to the atrium as the First Order had boarded the Starcruiser, which served as our indicator the final story event was taking place. I remember on the way there, conversing with a few sets of parents who had taken their children to the Starcruiser, who were surprised that they not only weren't going to get to savor the delectable-looking desserts we were served, but also hadn't anticipated the entire experience being so heavily structured. Younglings who didn't want to read or be glued to their phone to progress the story didn't have too many environments they could explore or interact with, which was one of our primary complaints about the entire experience. Additionally, you needed to interact with actors and scan in to the limited number of terminals in public spaces after them to progress the story. This meant there were no self-guided or self-service ways to progress your story, which feels like a missed opportunity for immersive spaces. The Galactic Starcruiser was far from perfect, but it was the most ambitious immersive experience I've ever participated in. The execution left a lot to be desired, and I believe the guest experience wasn't fully fleshed out prior to launch,